We're going to add one test similar to this non-existent test for our show users that we didn't have in our edit users because we didn't have it in our creating users. Because every time we create a user, we expect that user not to exist. But every time for our user when we edit, we do expect them to exist. So it's kind of like a hybrid between those two. So I'm going to take this test and I'm going to copy it and then modify it for editing users. So let's put it right here between passing invalid information and non-existent information. And the changes we're going to make, instead of getting user path, we're going to get our edit user path. And that should be all we need to do, because in this case we're trying to edit a user. We're going to pass it a bad user ID and it should work. So if we run our tests here, we now expect these new tests to fail because we haven't handled them prior. If you did handle them before, that was doing a little bit more work than you needed to, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but you know, with the amount of change we're talking about here. But when you start talking about doing a lot of extra work that you don't need to, then that can be problematic. And we're going to actually solve the problem the same way we did in the show. We're going to take these 3 lines of code and paste them in our edit, so that if we find and it doesn't work, we catch that exception and move on. So now we can run those tests and we expect those to pass. And this time we do want to see this run in the browser because it is new functionality. So let's run our server here just to make sure we're happy with what that looks like. We believe the functionality is there. So let's go to some user that we know doesn't exist and try to edit them. And we go back to this listing of users and we get that message that when we refresh goes away. So we have the type of functionality we want.